welcome to Sister Friends, Cups, and Conversation. I'm your host, Teresa Cooper. Today we're going to have a conversation about menopause. It's something as women that we'll all face, and we're going to talk about it, how it impacts our lives, and how to navigate through it. Are you ready to have a conversation? Let's go. Welcome to Sister Friends, Cups, and Conversation. I'm your host, Teresa Cooper, and I'm glad you've joined us today. We've got a different table, just three of us around the table today, but I'm glad to have Miss Catherine Young.
As always,
yes.
Glad to be here.
And then we have Miss Colette Brown.
Hi.
Colette, can you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Professionally, I'm a nurse practitioner, and I work in an endocrinology clinic in Bossier City. And Do you want like personal stuff too?
Sure. Yes.
I'm married and I have 3 girls, and I'm a member of New Creation Family Church.
Well, thank you for being at the table today.
You're welcome. Thank you for asking me.
Yes, absolutely. And I wasn't aware that you worked in Bossier. Is that something new?
Yes.
How do you like driving across the bridge?
You know, it takes about twice the time to get to work, but it's okay. It's okay. Yeah.
Okay. Well, I'm glad you're here. Our cup for today is I am not responsible for what my face does when you talk.
Oh,
okay.
Wow.
I'm not responsible. I picked this cup because today we're going to talk about menopause. Mm-hmm. And so for those of us that don't have full disclosure, control of our facial expressions. Yes. That's one of my things I have to pray about often.
Yes.
May my face match my heart.
Yes.
I am not responsible for what my face does when you talk. Mm-hmm. So that's our special cup for today. And our ladies have our Sister Friends cup.
Yes.
And if you would like to get a Sister Friends cup, just DM us and we'll make that available to you. You can go to our website, sisterfriendscupsandconvo.com, to purchase a cup. Mm-hmm. And so we're going to be talking about menopause.
Yes.
Menopause.
And yes, Miss Colette is our nurse practitioner. Mm-hmm. Congratulations.
Thank you. And
that was a new degree that you picked up, correct?
Yes.
So congratulations
last
on that.
May. Yes.
Yes, last May. Mm-hmm. It's wonderful. And so we're going to talk about menopause. And I just kind of labeled this menopause fast facts.
All right.
Menopause fast facts. It's a real thing that happens. It's a part of life. It's a part of our biology and our bodies. And I don't know where you might be on the spectrum or where you might be in your age. As it relates to menopause, I want to say that they say in and around 35, some things could start to happen, but pretty much, 40s for sure, going into your 50s, this word menopause becomes more real. And I'm going to ask you, Colette, what medically, when does, menopause actually start? Because I know I got a lot of false, no, you're not menopausal from my OB, who happened to be an older gentleman. And he was just putting me off consistently. And because he was a doctor, I believed him. But what's the textbook time that people go into the change of life?
Okay, so there's a few different transitions that women go through. And with menopause, menopause is actually where you have not had a menstrual cycle or a period for 365 days.
Okay.
So that's actual menopause.
Please, Jesus.
Yeah. Not there yet. Okay. So, and then there's premenopausal, which is, anybody in their 20s to until they begin to start experiencing some hormonal transitions. So, and then there's perimenopause, which that's where a lot of people start to experience symptoms. And that's when they start thinking, oh, I'm menopausal. Well, not quite menopausal, but you're perimenopausal. And so perimenopausal is it can occur as early as 10 years before you would experience menopause, but most women will start to experience symptoms in their 40s to mid 50s. I was younger than that when I started noticing changes in my body, though.
Okay. So I would say I'm perimenopause, and I started noticing changes right in my around about 45.
Okay.
I hit a brick wall.
And that's about typical
Really?
between 40 and 45.
Now, and prior to that, my male OB kept saying, "Oh, you're fine. Oh, you're fine." You know, in the meantime, I was going crazy out of my mind.
Yeah.
Because I'm thinking something's absolutely wrong. If you just tuned in, we're talking about menopause, and we're giving some fast facts about menopause. And so after perimenopause, then you go into full-blown menopause. And typically that's after your cycle has ended.
Yeah, that's where you've gotten rid of your very last cell. I mean, your very last egg.
Okay.
Yeah.
The very last egg.
The very last egg.
Says goodbye.
Yes, yes.
Okay. And then can that last another 10 years in menopause, or is that just the rest of your life?
That menopause is, you've hit it where you have not had a menstrual cycle for a year. And then after that time period, they consider that post-menopausal, which sets you up for a whole nother risk of things.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. And then, of course, there's that strange space where there's, especially within the African community, African-American community, where you have all of these women with fibroids.
Oh, yeah.
And then they get consulted and then they have partial hysterectomies. Which is a big thing.
Yes.
But usually they leave out the fact that if you get certain things removed, you're going to go into menopause instantly. I think some people say, well, if I keep my eggs, then I'm still going to, have all of my hormones. Can you talk about that a little bit? Because I've had several women within our church that didn't know that they were in menopause. They just thought they were just happy to get rid of the fibroids and to get rid of the uterus. But the doctor never talked to them about menopause. Instant.
Well, so if you have a partial hysterectomy, typically that does mean that they have kept your ovaries. So most women will continue to have hormonal fluctuations as if they were going to have a menstrual cycle, only their uterus isn't there. And you will typically experience the same symptoms everybody else does. But then there are some people where they kept their ovaries, but they do have like an abrupt, cessation, and they enter into menopause that way. And so it doesn't happen as often, but it can happen. And it's usually more, the symptoms are more severe when it happens that way.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
it's all at once versus a transition of time.
See, that's what happened with me.
Yeah.
What happened with me was I went into surgical menopause because I had the fibroids, for years, and doing maintenance with those. I'm in my 40s taking birth control pills because they trying to keep at bay till I go into natural menopause. But then it only got worse. So at the time surgery came along, and that was the only option because it was just everything going crazy. When they did the surgery to remove the uterus, they say, okay, we're going to keep your ovaries. But then when they got into the surgery, the ovaries was messed up because I waited too long, scar tissue. And then he was like, well, I didn't know my ovaries going to be removed till I woke up.
Oh, my goodness.
And when I woke up, he said, Miss Catherine, what should have took an hour and 45 minutes, we were in 6.5 hours. Because he was really trying to save that one ovary. And then when he couldn't save that ovary, he said, okay, we're going to have to remove this off, take it out. But it took me straight into menopause. Like within that week, I started feeling hot flashes, something I never felt. Then I went into crying fits. Then I started noticing, okay, I'm getting depressed, heart palpitations, digestion. We do not know how much our hormones play in our body until you don't have those.
Yes.
Right. You know, let me do this fast facts, and then I want you to continue to give us your experience. Because for some of you might be watching and you're saying, well, I'm not that age, I'm not experiencing that, or you know, I still have my cycle. Or you're young, but basically you need to be informed, because you don't need to wait until you get that age and then start trying to figure it out. You need to, you know, be your best self advocate.
Yeah.
And so these are some fast facts. When you're menopausal, perimenopausal, these are some of the symptoms, and it's quite a few. You'd be surprised: fatigue, irritability, itchy skin, breast pain, depression, digestive problems, irregular periods, joint pain, night sweats, allergies, anxiety. Most people don't connect all that to menopause, but it is all connected.
Yes.
Anxiety, bloating, brittle nails, burning tongue, changes in odor, difficulty concentrating, dizziness, electric shocks, gum problems, hair loss, headaches, hot flashes, incontinence, irregular heartbeat, loss of libido, memory lapses, mood swings, muscle tension, tingling extremities, sleep disorders, panic disorder, osteoporosis, vaginal dryness, and weight gain. That's a lot of symptoms.
And I had all of them.
I know. I've had quite a few of these myself. Panic disorder. Never was a person that, but started having panic disorder.
Yeah.
The one thing that's not on here, I don't think I said it, but I was having fits of rage.
Yeah.
Like I could go from 1 to 10, like instantly, just angry, want to fight somebody.
Yes.
You know. And I had no idea that it was that it was a hormonal imbalance.
Yes.
So tell me, when this happened to you, did all of these symptoms or some?
I didn't know what to expect, because I went to a certain doctor to have the surgery, but I had an OB doctor.
Okay.
So they kind of worked together. So after all of this happened, I went to the emergency room at least 6 or 7 times because I thought I was having heart attacks.
Yeah. I
was fainting. I was having hot flashes, and I was having just memory fog. I couldn't put sentences together. And so when I went to my doctor, who specialized in hormonal therapy, he said, what happened to you is when a woman's body naturally goes through menopause, you get those symptoms a little at a time.
Okay.
And you work through it. But when you go through surgical menopause, your body just go crazy and it reacts. And I think it's something that we need to talk about as women, because in the old days, after I started, having so much going on, doctors telling me everything, I started studying on it.
Right.
And in the old days, when women would go through this, they would put them in insane asylums.
Right.
They would think they were crazy.
Yeah. Right.
They would give them Valium. They had to function. But you're thinking about going through menopause 10, 15 years. This just hit me all at once. I thought I was losing my mind. I had to stay with prayer.
Right.
I called you crying.
Right.
It was just, I have never experienced anything like that.
Yeah. And so you might be watching and you're saying, well, I haven't experienced this. And I just kind of reiterate this again, because one of the first fast facts is that it's coming.
Yes.
It is coming.
So be prepared.
Yes.
It may not be you today, but it's coming. And, one of the things that prior to myself being perimenopausal, we had different people that we had relationships with, that we began to have interaction with. And we were able to, if you would, learn from them that we because their personalities changed overnight. And we knew that they weren't those people, but we couldn't figure out why were they acting so different and erratic and just a total change in behavior. And that's when we kind of stumbled. This was as pastors, me and my husband. We kind of stumbled on, the midlife crisis. and when it appears in women's lives. And then that's when we realized that a few of the, women in our church that we had relationships with, that we looked at their age, we started looking at their behavior, and it was like, okay, something medical is going on with them.
Yeah.
And it really helped us to pastor them better.
But then when you go to that person and you say, I see these symptoms, I recognize them, I think you might be going through. I ain't going through menopause. I don't receive that.
Right.
But it's the classic sign.
Right, the classic signs.
And you're like, okay, this is shit. And they'll tell you, well, this is why I feel like this. I'm like, you might be going through menopause. And when you say that to a woman, it's just like they instantly feel like defensive. Well, I'm not old. Menopause don't mean old.
Right.
No.
And so it's hard to talk to another woman. You almost have to have a friend. What helped me when I was going through menopause, right after I went through my bad battle and was going through it, I had several friends. We were all going through it at the same time.
Yeah.
So we could kind of, that iron sharpens iron, where we could have that talk.
Absolutely. So, Ms. Collette, can you speak to any of these symptoms or your experience as a nurse practitioner? What people need to do or how people should first respond?
I guess first thing is, personally speaking, I had some perimenopausal symptoms, and mine were actually not the hot flashes and things. Mine had to do more with vaginal dryness and painful, intercourse. And I'd go and talk to my GYN and give her my symptoms, and immediately it was just kind of dismissed. Well, are your menstrual cycles regular? Yes. Well, you're not. Your hormones are stable then. And it was just kind of, and I'm like, no, this is a real thing. The number one symptom that people do experience is the hot flashes.
Yes.
But all of those others, one thing I would say is, don't self-diagnose.
Yes.
You can actually even have this conversation with your primary care provider because several of those symptoms could be related to thyroid. Hormones, not just the female hormones, but I mean, some of it could be that you actually have, thyroid disease now, and so you want to get, like a complete workup on your health.
Yeah.
But typically, let me ask you this.
Yes.
Most primary care doctors, they can do that lipid panel or just the blood work panel. They don't just do that on their own. You have to ask or at least bring up, I'm not sleeping at night. I'm sweating. I'm, the mood swings, irregular heartbeat. Like some of the symptoms that I mentioned earlier, you have to almost, you have to communicate with them well enough for them to say, well, let's do a whole blood work. Let's do a whole panel. Or you have to say, well, can you test my hormones? And then they'll do the whole thing. They don't just do it every year just for, what is it called, your wellness visit. It's almost like you have to advocate.
Advocate for
yourself and say, something's not right. I'm feeling strange. And
I mean, that's when you just keep saying, no, I am having these symptoms. This is a problem for me, and I want it, to be addressed. So, I mean, it took actually several years, to get the treatment. And I found out, that I had fibroids as well. And, that was, part of my issue with painful intercourse. But the vaginal dryness, it was one of those things to start off with treatment, to do the least to get the results first, versus going straight to, hormones. And so, you can try some things like natural lubricants, and then definitely, with intercourse, you want to always lubricate, because that helps. But some women will experience vaginal dryness, not just during sex, they'll experience it throughout the day. They might find that they're getting more UTIs, urinary tract infections. They may be able to just sense like the burning sensation that they feel because the skin has gotten thin and, it looks different and it feels different. As far as hot flashes with talking, a lot of that depends on how debilitating they are. Some women will just have some night sweats, and it might be, okay, I have it a few times a week. It's not that bad. And you can do, just change your environment. Keep the temperature a little lower, maybe, which I know our husbands don't necessarily care for. But, and you can keep a fan on you. You can dress differently, dress in layers, don't put on a whole turtleneck sweater.
You can always sleep naked.
You could. and try those things first. But diet can play a role in it too.
Absolutely. That'd be a huge part.
Yeah.
Yes.
Diet does play a huge part. Yeah.
If you're, and some people don't want to keep the whole food journal, because it takes time and it takes effort, but finding out what those triggers are, when I have that hot and spicy chili or whatever, it's worse. Caffeine makes it worse.
Yes,
Alcohol consumption makes it worse.
Yes.
So, changing some things in your diet, may help.
Yeah.
If you are to the point where you're like, this is like interfering with my life, I can't go to work without, staining my clothes and things, that would be the time like, okay, I need to have this conversation with my provider.
And for some people, it's not so much that we're talking about menopause. If you just, logged in, it's not so much that it's interfering with their life. Because some people can adjust to their own bad behavior.
Yes.
or their own mood or their own energy, whatever you want to call it. But it's the disruption, that is causing other people in your life, the co-workers, your family, your children, because it does, or it has the ability to overtake, every part of your life.
Yes.
And so if nothing else, you have to get the help and you have to do the things that you maybe don't want to do, not necessarily because it's about you, but it's about the quality of life for everyone that's in your life.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I think they did a study a while back, a couple years back, that in and around menopause time in women's lives, they have more divorce, more,
I believe it.
more abandonment of family, because a lot of bad decisions can be made and are made at one of the most vulnerable times, if you would, in a woman's life. And it is vulnerable if you're not, especially if you're not seeking help, whether it's spiritual help, whether it's help through therapy, or whether it's holistic help through changing of lifestyle. It's not just something that you just get through.
No.
You have to actually be applying and advocating and applying, advocating and applying that the education that you're getting to help you make it through the change of life.
Yeah, because for me, I said, okay, I'm not getting the help. So I started reading. Foods first. I knew caffeine. When I drank that cup of coffee, I was instantly having hot flashes.
Yeah.
But I love coffee. Okay, you want hot flash or you want coffee? And then it was just certain other things. And then after I sorted through the different foods that caused it, then I was like, well, that's not giving me enough relief. Then I went to my doctor. She said, well, Catherine, we could try the hormone therapy. But then you have to talk to a doctor.
Right.
Don't just give me one medicine fit all women.
No.
I didn't want that. But she said, let's try some things. When I went to the doctor before I started bioidentical treatment, she said, I'm going to give you hormonal shots. And she said, I'm going to check your blood levels. Well, I can remember when I went into my appointment, my husband had to almost carry me in there. I was crying. I couldn't stand up. She looked at my blood work and she threw it on the desk. She said, this is not working. She gave me a shot, a steroid, not a steroid shot, but a hormone shot. And about a day, I felt myself feeling better. And then I did that for a year or so. And then I said, because every month I would have to go get a shot. I said, I can't do this. It's synthetic hormones. I don't want to do that.
Right.
Then they started something that they implanted under my skin.
Pellet.
A pellet. Love that. You go every 6 to 9 months, you get that. It's a little surgical procedure. I say, no, I can't do this the rest of my life. So then I talked to my doctor, who's a specialist. He said, you could do bioidentical therapy. And he said, what that does is I'll take your blood work every 3 months, and they only gave me what I needed.
Right.
If my body wasn't saying, he give me a list of symptoms. He say, fill it out honestly. If he say you're not sleeping, you crying, you're getting belly fat, and I be going there and I say my belly getting fat.
Yeah.
But he was like, nah, your blood work don't say that's a estrogen issue. That's a too much eating issue. So, the blood shows everything.
Right.
And that's what I've been on for the last 6 years. I have to do it every 3 months, but it's worth it. And I asked him, I said, well, how long do I have to stay on this? He said, you could stay on this the rest of your life because your body is going to change and you're going to get what you need. He said, now, if you want to get off of it, we're going to have to wean you off. And then you're going to go back to where you were in regards to your body is depleting again. With the bioidentical game. And I was like, well, is it going to hurt me to stay on it the rest of my life? He said, no, that's why you have to get your blood work. Because it's a lot of different things.
To your particular
It's made
body.
to my body.
It's not a one hormone fit for everybody.
And I was like, I want to be safe because a lot of hormone therapies cause breast cancer, different things like that. And he looks at the blood and his biochemist who reads it. And he went on and he was like, okay, this one is too high. We're going to, if I tell him I'm combing my hair and it's coming out, he look at that blood. You lacking here because your body is still utilizing the hormone, but it's telling you when something is off in your body. So now I'm at the point, I feel better. I'm doing better. Okay, do I want to stay on this?
Right. Yeah. Were you going to say something?
I was just going to say, and so like hormone replacement is not, there's some people that should not be on it. Like you mentioned breast cancer. If you have a history or you're high risk for it, if you've had a cardiac event like a heart attack or a stroke, if you've had a blood clot, if you have like liver disease and things like that, those are people where they do not recommend, hormone replacement at all. So then, there's some other things that could be done, like antidepressants and, things. So, I mean, talking and trying and, having that open, honest conversation with your provider and saying, okay,
I did
let's talk
that
about
too.
The antidepressants.
Did antidepressants. You remember I told you I was crazy.
For some of them, since depression is an issue, there's a lot of new onset depression with menopause. It's associated with menopause, but it also, for some people, helps with their hot flashes. So, some people benefit.
So, some medicines help other symptoms, not just one. Each woman has a unique experience, yet there are universal experiences. So you're, in unique symptoms. So it's an experience and symptoms. I mean, before I could figure out what was wrong with me, I had to walk around with a little book and just keep notes. For at least 90 days of how I was feeling, what the symptoms were, and then bring that notebook into the doctor with me. Because we always go in there saying, we know what we're going to say. Yeah. And then we get in there and forget we was going to bring this up, we was going to bring that up. Yeah. And so it was different for me. I felt it was inconvenient, but it was necessary. It was the only way I was going to get to the root of the cause, And
you need a doctor that's going to listen to you.
Yeah. And that's another thing.
Can't be out in 5 minutes.
That's it. If you can't hear what I'm saying, because I know my body, you're not my doctor anymore. Yeah. So I had to find a doctor who really knew hormonal therapy and knew that I wasn't crazy. Right. And when I walked in there, he didn't laugh or look in there. He was like, I got you. I know what's going on. And that helped me. But, women, first of all, we don't want to talk about menopause. And then we go to a doctor that try to justify our bad behavior. You just getting older. You okay? Right. But we have to find doctors that will help us, that know what hormone therapy is, that knows, because a lot of GYNs don't do hormonal therapy.
No, they don't. Yeah.
Well, and part of that is because it's not necessarily regulated by anybody. So you have some people where there's certain things that are regulated by the FDA, and then there's certain things that are not. Okay. And so with the compounded, hormonal therapy that is done, some people just kind of stay away from that just because of, the amount of, like if you go to one pharmacy and get it compounded, it may be completely different if you went to another, So some are just like, what, that's not my specialty, and then they refer you to someone else. Not saying that it's the wrong therapy, just that that's not my specialty. Yeah. I don't feel comfortable, prescribing that for you, but send you to somebody who does. Yes. Yeah.
And too, it's important that you listen to your body.
Yes.
So that you can know your body. And you can't know your body if you're not listening, because your body's telling you, what's going on, but you got to be listening to your body. And there may be somebody, you're watching and you're going, well, you ladies are blessed. You got doctors, you got health insurance, So what about those people that don't have health insurance or that don't have a primary care doctor or a doctor that they feel that they can just go to and talk to. One of the great things about the internet is you can find out a whole lot from the internet.
Right.
Now, I'm not saying be your own doctor, but I am saying that, if you want to know about your condition or know about yourself, there's other means to get the information that you need. Really good health food stores, that not the big chain ones, but the ones that really that's what they do. They can help direct you until you get to a doctor on certain things that you can take that are natural to help alleviate some of the symptoms that you may be having. And then, of course, the internet's gotten to where you can have video,
doctors.
Doctor. I had a doctor that he went out of practice talking about I'm finna be a concierge doctor.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
I was like, concierge doctor, and he was one of my favorite. But he's now his practice is going to see his private patients on a list. And some insurances, and some insurances are going that route. And now with Corona, they're doing video calls. And so that's another way that it's made it more available to people to go see the doctor. They could do it through video chat, just a thought. God made our bodies, and this is so important. We should never underestimate his ability to speak to us about our bodies. He's the one that designed it. He made the genome, and he made everything. He knitted us together perfectly. And so never underestimate the power of prayer and asking the Lord first and continually asking him for the solution and to direct you to the right people and the right information. I remember one time, it was years ago, I was having a really bad problem with constipation and just my bowels being regular. And I just knew that there was a remedy, and I knew that there was something there was a machine. There was something they could put me on to just clean me out and get me on track and to help me. And I went from doctor to doctor, and they all just looked and said, there's no such thing. And I would say, no, I know there is, because when I had my son and I had a cesarean, and when you have surgery, your body can fill up with gas. Yeah. And I said, I remember when I was in the hospital, they put me on a machine and they got all that gas out of me. They got to have something like that for your bowels. And they would all just look at me like I was just crazy. And the final thing was, I went to the ER one night, and they did an X-ray, and they confirmed your bowels are full of up to here. And they went through the whole thing, and then they sent me home with bottles of castor oil. I'm like, I need some relief right now.
Yeah.
Just help me, And I'll never forget it, because I prayed and I said, Lord, you got to show me. I know that there's something out there, and I'm not in the information pool. You got to bring it to me. And I'll never forget it. One day I was in my pool and we were swimming, and I got one of those forum magazines, and I was in the pool and I was flipping through the forum, and I saw an ad that said, I forget the name of it right now, but it was about colonics, and they had a machine, and she had a picture. And I started screaming. And my husband was like, what's wrong with you? And I was like, I knew it. I knew it. I knew it existed. I knew it was out there. And from that moment, my life changed because I got introduced to colon therapy and having colonics on a regular. And when I say it changed my life, it changed, because I had one doctor literally tell me, you're going to die if you don't move regularly. And there's a lot of people that are out there that are experiencing things, and they know that there's an answer. They know that there's a remedy, but they can't get to the answer.
That's right.
You know what I mean? And so it's important to understand that ultimately, all of our care and all the wisdom and all the knowledge, God can direct us.
Sure can.
To where we need to be and where we need to go. Is there any final thoughts you ladies want to say about menopause?
Even on the spiritual side of that, the 1 Peter 5:7 says, cast your anxieties on him because he cares for you. And I can remember going through the menopause and I couldn't even formulate a prayer or to, just quote a scripture. I can remember just saying, Lord, help me.
Yeah.
Because, God is there when he see everything. And this went on for till I got really steady for at least a year and a half.
Wow.
But the only thing I couldn't really preach because I couldn't formulate a sermon. I couldn't do anything that took, how your memory.
Yeah.
Because I was in my now memory, but I couldn't remember just right then. So I had to my prayer time consisted of, Lord, help me.
Yeah.
Just help me. And he sent me things, but he had me to do my research.
Right.
It's some things that we have to do that would do continual care.
Absolutely. Yeah, Colette, is there any final thoughts?
Know your body. Like what you said, that's important. And about menopause, like you said earlier, it's not a disease state.
Yes.
It can definitely cause some symptoms that makes you feel like you have a disease state. And having people that you can communicate with and get the help that you need is important, whether that be spiritual help or emotional help, physical help. And for a lot of people, it takes all of those, to get to a place where you can, feel like you again.
Yeah,
absolutely. So, ladies, and those that are watching, this has been a full table, the fast facts about menopause. It's a part of life. It's a part of the change of life in our bodies and how God has made us. We are wonderfully and fearfully made. When he made us, he said, and it is good. And so no fear, it is good. Just be your best advocate and stay in prayer, and God will give you the resources and the tools to navigate through a life of menopause. God bless you. Don't forget, Something to Sip On is next. Thank you for joining the conversation today. We had an impactful conversation about menopause. All of us as women will face it at one point, but we will get through it together. We'll advocate for our health better. I want to encourage you to share, like, subscribe to our channel, and don't forget to join us next Wednesday at 12. And Something to Sip On is next. This is Something to Sip On, and I want to say this was a very informative conversation. Menopause isn't the end of life. It's really the beginning of a new life. And so just, advocate for yourself, speak up, inquire. You're not going crazy. You're just in a different season. And use it, flip it, and empower yourself to be the best you at the end than at the beginning.
Yes.
Kathy, what are you sipping on?
I'm going to sip on a little Dr. Maya Angelou.
Okay.
She quoted, "There is no greater agony than bearing an untold story inside of you."
Oh.
And I love that because we have to know what's going on in the inside of us. And that story has to be told. Don't keep it to yourself. As Pastor Teresa say, be an advocate for your own care.
Yes, absolutely. Menopause is not a dirty word.
That's right.
And be careful because you could turn menopause into a men on pause.
Yes.
We are meant to be in relationship with our men friends.
Yes.
Our husbands and our sons. Yes.
I think because no one goes through this life alone, it's important to remember that you need a support system and reaching out to those people who have experienced it before, but having, the support system around you, including, a good provider, one that will take the time to listen to you and address all your concerns. But then also your family, open up and let them know what's going on. And then your church family,
yes.
Being able to ask for prayer when you need it and just reach out and open up.
Yes. Ask for those Bible studies or those women group conversations about menopause. We did it at New Creation Family Church, and it was very impactful to gather all the women of a certain age and talk to them about menopause so that their lives could be more enriched and so that they could walk in a greater level of wholeness and clarity. So thank you for joining us today. God bless. See you next week.
Okay.